Hey guys, it's always a big Jew and a golly to each of y'all. All right, yesterday we talked about this. None of it was good. A dirty old man stood in a very beautiful place surrounded by 24-hour-a-day armed security and told you that you can't be. And the disarmament of the American populace continues. What you and your children, your grandchildren will be allowed to own at stake, literally at stake. We talked about it yesterday. None of it was good. But I had to burn through it, and it was an overview because literally while I was editing that episode, the actual press conference took place. I've now done a deep dive. I'm going to tell you at the end what I think and where I really think we are. So stick with me. I'm going to develop this a little bit more clearly. We now know more about it, and it's worse than we thought. That's not hyperbole. It is worse than we thought. Yeah, let me know what you think. None of this is good. So buckle up, here we go. Not unironically and not by accident, today's episode is brought to you by the Kill Dozer. Flags are in. Long sleeves in. Short sleeves in. Patches in. Show your ungovernableness to all your friends, families, neighbors, relatives, in-laws, and outlaws. You know where the links are. They're right down there. Big thank you to TriStar Trading Co., and a big shout out to Marvin Heemeyer, the legend himself. All right, yesterday, a dirty old man who craps himself and can't walk up a flight of stairs took to his ink pen and did a massive executive order. That was leaked to the press, and we knew a little bit about it, but now let me go through it a little bit more in detail. Again, none of this is good. All of it is leadership by the pen, none of which the executive branch is supposed to be able to do, none of which is constitutional. Yesterday I did talk about this one. Now let me go through just line by line. Increase of current laws or increased enforcement of current gun laws. Some say we have 20,000. That number is contested, 20,000 gun laws. Also, to get as close as possible to the universal background check. That's what most of the press that is talking about, those that are talking about this, they keep pushing that one. This is about universal background checks. There's a lot more shoved in here. Pork, as they call it. Enforcement of FFL revocation. I talked about all of this over on the Warrior Poet Network. The episode will be out, I think, on Friday or maybe Monday, probably Friday. But we talked a lot about this, is that the current regime, they are closing FFLs at a rate 500% higher than ever before. Right here in Johnson City, a guy that I know, I've known him for years, one of our FFLs got shut down last week. I have seen the Department of Defense's, or was it Department of Justice? The Department of Justice letter that was sent to them. He's gone. Absolutely out. So enforcing FFL revocation and more enforcement, tightening that up so they can never sell again. Modernizing the Undetectable Firearms Act. We didn't talk about this one yesterday. The Undetectable Firearms Act is about 10 years old, and that's the one where they're all worried about getting firearms through metal detectors. So it's got to have enough metal in it to get caught by metal detectors, because that's what keeps us safe. Going after ghost guns, no big shocker there, but we didn't know this one yesterday. Also, increased inspection of FFLs, guaranteed, this is me talking, that is only and solely for closing them down at that, again, new higher level. All right, yesterday I mentioned this first part, more regulations on how we store firearms, how firearms are stored. What I didn't know is how there's a plethora of different agencies and different departments that he is using, that Child Sniffy is using, the Secretary of Defense, the Attorney General, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Secretary of Health and Human Services, the Surgeon General, the Secretary of Education, and the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, all are going to be looking at how we store firearms. This is where I rub my arms around. They never come at us. It's never a direct assault. It is always an end around. It is always backdoor gun control. Onwards, developing and tailoring the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security and the heads of all law enforcement. And what they're going to be doing is increasing and tailoring and enforcing the policies of the Biden regime. So again, they're using more agencies. NQs, we talked about these next two yesterday. Increased use of red flag laws and the increased use of the ballistics database. Furthermore, we talked about this yesterday, that there's going to be looking more at how they market firearms to minors. Well, that one's going through the Federal Trade Commission. He's hitting it everywhere. Also using military images, marketing military to adults, military images, marketing guns to adults. And finally, the Secretary of Transportation, Steve Buttigieg, doing such a bang-up job in Ohio after that chemical spill. He's going to be tightening the shipping, how they are shipping firearms between manufacturers and FFLs. I read today that the average murder suspect has been arrested an average of 11 times. Murder suspects have been arrested average of 11 times. How about we just deal with criminals and not deal with people like me and you? Wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah. Follow the narrative. Follow the narrative. I said that yesterday. Follow the narrative woven in and out of this speech and woven in any of the AP articles that are getting spewed out. They are talking about the narrative and mass shootings, mass shootings. One that's attached to all of this is a New York Times article. I shared this over on the network as well. This is from February 20th. February 20th, this year, February. The New York Times article, U.S. mass shootings in 23, a partial list. It's just a partial list. It's even worse than we can type out. There is no official consensus on what constitutes a mass shooting. But by one count, there have already been dozens this year. Yeah, dozens. And people believe this. Like, people believe whatever the news says. You can spend 30 minutes on the CDC website and just pull their data, and all of this falls apart. And the CDC, as we know from the we know that they are nothing but a voice box of the DNC, and even their data shows there's no such thing as dozens of mass. No. Sniffy, dirty old man, opened his entire press conference with this yesterday. This happened after that video. Quote, "Where are the 9-year-olds?" The real quote. "Gun violence in this country is an epidemic and it's an international embarrassment." Close quote. You know what's an international embarrassment? Is that dirty old man on a flight of stairs. I went through all of this, and I had some other notes that I want to talk about, but here's where I got while I was watching that press conference and watching him smugly stand in front of all those cameras and just spew out more control. Here's how we're going to control you people. Here's how we're going to take away your freedoms. Here's how we're going to take what is a constitutional right and inarguable every time. And I mean every time the 2A has ever gone before the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court has given a big fat thumbs up. It is, and it really is. And they always say, well, it's not absolute. Oh, yes, it is. And the Supreme Court has upheld that repeatedly. They did it even last year, even under this regime. They will not mess with it. And yet he spews all this stuff and control and lies and unconstitutionality, all about controlling you and disarming the populace so that you'll have to eat bugs and do whatever they tell you to do and drive electric cars and continue to suck off the teat of China. And yet the NPCs line up. Any of the pink hairs and rainbow hairs, they line up. All of the mainstream media, they line up in lockstep and they cheer this nonsense. We have seen this mess before. This is not just General Hux, if you let me use a Star Wars reference, General Hux standing in front of his new army. This is some scary, scary stuff. What say you? I'll be back tomorrow with memes. We'll lighten it up a little bit. See y'all.